Okay, we're holding now in the middle of Siman Samach Ches by the paragraph starting Gam Divrei Haradak. So he says Gam Divrei Haradak Shebesoif Tehillim, the Radak on Tehillim Kuf Mem Vav. Heim Ke'en Divrei Haramban. They're similar to the Ramban, which is on Shiur Shirim. Shekasav Kol Yisod Dvarav. That he bases his words. Me'akasav should be Yishai Samach Vav. On the pasuk in Yishai, V'hevi es kol achechem mikol hagoyim minchol Hashem. That the Goyim will bring the Jews as a present to Hashem. Sha'kasiv zehu achar milchemes Gog u'Magog, which this pasuk is talking after the war of Gog u'Magog, which is after Mashiach will come. It's not talking before Mashiach will come. So take a look, page 15 of the sheets. Tehillim Kuf Mem Vav, not printed in every Mikros Gedolos. Only certain ones have the Radak.
Don't all most of them have the Radak, but not on album.
Well, on other Sfarim of Tanakh, they all have the Radak, but on Tehillim, for some reason, it's not printed, usually. But this one I found it did. So it says, Al tivtechu ben divim beven adam shein lo yisashua. Don't trust in a person who has no...
Or a noble,
right. So...
no salvation.
Right. So the Radak says, she'en lo yisashua, she'im lo b'ratzon hakel, ein b'yad ha'adam lo hashia. That without Hashem wanting it to happen, a person can't save you. Only Hashem has the salvation. But Hashem could make it happen through people.
But first, not have to see him as a shliach. He shouldn't have himself did it.
Right. Because just like Hashem caused the redemption from Bavel to happen through Koresh, and similar in the future, Yisabev Geulas Yisrael, He's going to make the redemption take place al yidei malchi agoyim, through the kings of the nations. This is why they jumped on this one. Through the kings of the nations, sheyeyor es rucham, that He's going to arouse their spirit. L'shalcham, to send them. Kamashakasi v'heviu es kol achechem mikol agoyim minchol Hashem. He brings this pasuk in Yeshaya that they'll bring the Jews back as a minchol Hashem. And the reason why this is going to happen is because that the Jews trusted in Hashem Levadoi, Hashem alone during Galus.
Okay. This is the Zionist probably going to use this one, so
this is what he's talking about.
To say that confirmed what happened in Israel, although not all nations agreed.
Right.
Although there were those who voted for pro, not all of them were pro.
Okay, so this is the Radak. So here's what he says. So the Radak is basing himself on the pasuk which is talking after Milchemes Gog and Magog, which makes it clear that this whole thing that he's saying is only going to happen.
Where does it say after Milchemes Gog and Magog? Might I just ask?
It says that he's bringing a pasuk. Ve'heviu es kol achechem. And if you look in that pasuk, like we saw last week, right? Remember that the psukim, it's in page 12. The end of Yeshaya, it says Kivo Eish Hashem Nishpadu V'charbo Es Kol Basav V'Rab B'chal Hashem. That's the pasuk about Milchemes Gog and Magog. And then a few psukim later it says this thing, V'hiviu es kol achechem mikol goyim minchol Hashem. See, so obviously it's talking after the Milchama, and it's which is happening after Mashiach comes. So Mashiach's going to come first, gather in the Yidden, and then the goyim will bring the rest of them that were left behind. V'haradak atzmoi, back to Vayoel Moshe. V'haradak atzmoi sham b'Yishai samach vav kasav al oisei akra shezeh yiyah achar hapela hagadol. The Radak himself on Yeshaya says on that pasuk that it will be talking after the amazing miracles of the Milchemes Gog and Magog. Shiur akol b'Milchemes Gog and Magog v'al kain v'al korchach dekoy al achar b'yis HaMashiach. You have to say that this is happening after Mashiach comes. Gam siyem haradak. The Radak in Tehillim ends off shezeh yiyeh lefi shabat Yisrael begalus bekelis barach levadoi. That it's going to happen because the Yidden trusted in Hashem only. Im kein tala hadavar b'masha yivtu b'Hashem yisbarach levadoi. It's because we trusted in Hashem.
But in this case, they trust the Zionists and their army, and their guns, and everything.
Right, and loy be'pu'ula acheres. Not that they trusted in any other actions, whether
which in this case they do.
War, right, or hishtadlus. It doesn't mean that. It means trusting only in Hashem. Umikol shekain shal yidei pu'ulahu asura He said, if it would be talking about some kind of an action that's not aser, then okay, we could understand, but it's not bitachon, but it's at least not an aveira. But here, we're talking about an aveira. It's a pu'ula ho asura. She'iyaf shalahasi ge'ez ge'ula mitzad kedusha. You can't get a ge'ula from the holy side. In other words, a real ge'ula through doing actions that are aser. If you do get something, it's something that the Satan provides as an isayin. It's not the real ge'ula. Ve'af be'bai sheni. Now he's going to address what the Radak said. The Radak said, just like he caused the Shua of Galus Babel to happen through Malchi to Koresh, so here also he could cause it to happen through the Malchi and Soilim. There, Koresh was the beginning of it, right? There was no Mashiach first and then Koresh came after. Koresh was the one who started it. So it looks like the Radak is comparing that to what's going to happen in the future. So on that he says, V'af b'bai sheni shaloi ha'is ge'ula amitis. By Sheni wasn't the true Geula, number one, so there's no Mashiach. By Sheni.
Of course, Yirmiyahu even said that it's going to be after 70 he'll gather you back, but it was in no way referring to the ultimate Yeshua. Yirmiyahu said separate nevuahs about the ultimate Yeshua. But that was only Yirmiyahu Navi nevuah alone, there was no other Navi nevuah.
Right, so, Chagai, Zechariah, Malachi, we're going to say in a
second.
They
were there, but Yirmiyahu gave the nevuah that's going to happen, that's what I'm saying.
Okay, right. That wasn't the final redemption. And it did take place through the king Koresh. Even that was predicted by Nevuah. Besides the fact that the Jews knew the time, which is written in the pasuk in Yirmiyahu 70 years. They were still there, the Nevi'im, at
the
time, right? There were 3 Nevi'im who said Nevuah, al kol ma she'asu k'mevuah b'kroy. Based on, everything they did was based on the Nevuah. V'af Koresh atzmoi asa al yidei Nevuah. Even what Koresh did was based on Nevuah. No, but he was predicted by a Navi, and he himself knew about that prediction.
Really?
K'mevuah
b'kroy. Was he a Talmud or something? How did he know that?
Well, I'm assuming the Yidden told him. They said, look, your name is Koresh. We have a pasuk in Yeshaya written 150 years ago, referring directly to you. It says, "K'mavur b'kra Ezra Aleph." Pasuk says in Ezra, the first capital of Ezra, "Koyamar Koresh." So says Koresh, "Kol mamlech ha'aretz nasan li Hashem Elokei Hashamayim." Hashem gave me an empire of the whole world. V'hu fakad alai, and He commanded me, leave nois loy ba'is b'Yushalayim, to build Him a Beis Hamikdash in Yerushalayim. So where did Hashem ever command Yeshai to do Koresh to do that? Upirish Rashi pakad alai shetziva alai al yidei Yeshai Hanavi. He gave this command through Yeshai Hanavi. V'areisha asa zeb yishvil emunasai l'nevuas Yeshai Hanavi. That Koresh did what he did because he believed in Yeshai. It's mentioned. Look, if you show him that his name is mentioned openly in Yeshai 200 years before he came along, it's a pretty big. So loy bishvil pu'ula acheres. And it's not that he trusted in some other action that the Yidden did, that they asked him for the right to come up to Eretz Yisrael. It's that he saw it in the Navi. It's certain that the future Geula will be even more of a openly miraculous.
Right, and Mashiach will be a greater Navi than those Nevi'im. It would just be inferior to Moshe Rabbeinu.
Right, so therefore the Geula Hasidah is not going to be like Koresh's level. So if Koresh's level had Nevuah, then obviously, so it's much more revealed than by Sheni, like I'm going to say later on. Okay, now just to look at what the Zionist reaction to this is, take a look at page 16. This is the famous Or Sameach letter. I'm sure you've heard of it.
Who wrote it? Forget.
Meir Simcha of Dvinsk.
Or Sameach, yeah.
And this is printed in.
What book is this in?
Kasher's Tkufa Gedola. Menachem Kasher. So he's a big sneaky guy, this Kasher. He does a lot of things, he omits things that are not convenient for him. But in any case, here's the letter. Now, take a look. It says, Amnon Ko'es Heiseva HaShgacha. The Hashem's Hashgacha caused Asher Ba'asifas HaMamlachos Hanu'urais, that in the gathering of the enlightened nations, Besan Remo, it's a name place in Italy where the League of Nations gathered together to ratify the mandate system, 1920. So Nitan Sav was given a command, Asher Eretz Yisrael Tiya La'am Yisrael, that the Eretz Yisrael should belong to the Jewish people. It's not exactly true because the Balfour Declaration didn't say that. It just said they're going to make.
They recognize homeland.
It will be it will be a place, a homeland, a place of refuge for Jews. Not that this whole country will be a Jewish country. And Weizmann said after Balfour Declaration that Eretz Yisrael is going to be as Jewish as France is French and as England is English. So Churchill put out a white paper, I think in 1920, reacting to that and saying, no, that's not what the Balfour Declaration was meant to do. It was meant to make a homeland, a place where there will be a Jewish community. That's it. And when the late 30s came along and they decided it wasn't in their interest to let more Yidden, and they said, look, we already fulfilled what we said we were going to do.
But it was primarily because they angered the mandate by shouting the land as ours.
That's true. All right, so he says, so the kivan shesar pachad Shevuos, since the fear of the Shalosh Shevuos is gone, uverish yoin hamlachim kama mitzvah yishuv Eretz Yisrael, through the permission of the nations, the mitzvah of Yishuv Eretz Yisrael comes back up. Sheshkula keneged kol mitzvahs.
And he brings the sifri, which is not even the final halacha.
All right, but that's a famous sifri that says Eretz Yisrael is shkul keneged kol mitzvahs. So now look at the next paragraph. Hein amnam she'az hayu hanavim. He says, what about in the time of Bayis Rishon, Bayis Sheni, I mean, when they built Bayis Sheni, there were Nevi'im there. So basically, he's going back to what the Rebbe is saying, even though this is written a long time before. But obviously, he knew that people who are against Zionism say, "What do you mean? You have to have Nevi'im." By Sheni, there were at least Nevi'im, right?
3. So
he says, "Oz ha'Nevi'im b'nevuah min hashamayim ma'chazikim ma'isa." They were supporting it, but he says, "Mi yodea ulai kamoy churban habayis hasheni haya shalai al pi nevuah." Maybe just like the destruction of the second base of Mikdash happened without nevuah. So Kain Yiyah Hanachas Evan Apina Shalai Alpi Nevi'im. When it gets built again, it will be built Shalai Alpi Nevi'im, without Nevi'im. Just like it was taken away, so it will be given back.
This
is what he wants to say.
Unusual thing
to answer up this kasha.
That's a very unusual thing.
Now I just want to put in that this letter is not so reliable because of the following reason. It was printed in the Mizrahi newspaper Hator in 1922, and there's a biography of Rameir Simcha written later by someone named Rabbiner, and he writes like this. He says that a person named Menachem Mendel Finkelman, as an emissary of the Zionist organization in Latvia, came to Dvinsk and came to Rameir Simcha and asked him to write a letter convincing Jews to contribute to the Keren HaYesod. You know what the Keren HaYesod is?
What is Keren HaYesod?
It's a fund that supports the Zionists. Basically, this is not even religious Zionists. It's just the plain Zionist movement sending an emissary to Rameir Simcha asking him to write a letter. And it goes on and explains how he wrote the letter. He thought about it for Shabbos, and after Shabbos he took some ink and wrote it down, and he said, "I have no good ink. I'm writing whatever ink I have. I'm in a hurry. This letter is very important." So he gave it to him. So this should arouse our suspicion, because Rameir Simcha was a fighter against the Zionist movement, that's for sure.
Let me just tell you one thing.
To say that he would write a letter directly for them, if he would write a letter on his own saying, "Okay, I think that now it's mutter to immigrate," fine. But here he wrote it for them to support their Keren HaYesod.
The kasher is mistaken here because Klal Yisrael knew that the second Israel would not be permanent. They knew it to begin with.
Okay.
So therefore, they already knew while it was being built that it will not last forever. So therefore, it's not a secret. Klal Yisrael were not under any impression that it will be forever.
So therefore, it was enough to have.
It was enough to know to begin with, from the very beginning of this building, it wouldn't be forever.
And they still then it could be destroyed without any nevuah. You mean?
Right. Of course, they knew to begin with, and that's why they still kept the time that was instituted by the Nevi'im. Asar B'Tevis, which was by the Nevi'im Dafka.
Even during Bayis Sheni, they kept.
Yes, because and they kept it even when it came out on Shabbos.
Now, it's important to know that even if we take this Rameir Simcha as being authentic, its matir is being oila with permission. So if you get a certificate from the British and you can be oila, you go there to Israel, fine. That's what he's being matir. He's not being matir anything more than that. That's what's very important to understand.
Yeah.
And in Siman Pei Vav, Rabbi is going to be more masbir that even people like the Rameir Simcha or the Avnei Nezer who said such a thing would not be matir fighting, and they would not be matir taking over the land from a nation that doesn't want to give it to us. It's only when the British had it and the British were giving permission for certain people to go. So if you have a certificate and you're allowed to go, fine, that you have the scepter of Rameir Simcha. Otherwise not. Alright. Uvechol oifen v'oifen. Back to Vayoel Moshe, last paragraph. in any case, you can't have a geula whether it comes through the Ummah Yisraelim, without the Ummah Yisraelim, but it cannot be without tshuva first. The Rambam in Hilchos Tshuva says that Asim Yisrael last is tshuva b'sof galusam. Remember that in Siman Mem?
Yes.
Mem Aleph. So uv'chlale haravid, in the rules of the Ravid, there's the Ravid argues on the Rambam in a lot of places. In the beginning of the Rambam, there's a section that has the rules how to learn it up. Hanidfas b'tchilas sifrei Rambam. Huva mi'knesses hagedola shekasav b'shem hamishpat tzedek. He writes in the name of the Mishpat Tzedek a rule shekeshehisig Ravid al Rambam v'lo hisigo Ramach, that when the Ravid argues on the Rambam and the Ramach, the Ramosh Cohen Milunil, which is another Rishon who argues on the Rambam a lot, brought down the Kesef Mishnah, and now the Frankel Rambam has it as a separate Mefarish. So when he argues on the Rambam, let's say the Ravid argues and the Ramach doesn't argue, Ein Raya Shestoiver Ramach Ke Rambam. You can't prove from that the Ramach holds like the Rambam from his silence. Because the Efshir Sha'achar Shehisig Ravid al Rambam Lo Chashish Last Igoy. It could be that the Ramach saw that the Ravid argues, so he didn't bother arguing, right? Because he said the Ravid did my job for me. We can learn out from this that let's say nobody argues on the Rambam. Let's say the Rambam says something and there's no Ravid, there's no Ramach. So what do you do then? Savri Kavase. It's a proof that they hold like him. This case where the Rambam says there's no geula without tshuva, and there's no Ravid on that. There's no other one of the Rishonim who argues on him. It must be that they all hold like him. That they agree that you can't have a geula without tshuva. Okay? I've explained earlier in Siman Mem what the reason is, what the idea is that you can't have a geula without tshuva. In other words, he said there that avada you could have, there's a machlokes in Sanhedrin between Rabbi Shiur and Rabbi Lezer, whether Mashiach could come without tshuva. Maybe
Mashiach could come, but the geula won't come until he makes everybody do tshuva.
Right. So even the Mashiach could come without tshuva, but the geula, the gathering of the Yidden from Golus, can't happen without tshuva. Okay, v'af ha'maral shestoiver sha'simon legeula hu rak bias Eliyahu. We have that maral, which wasn't so reliable on the Haggadah Shel Pesach. We said that, remember, that the simon for geula is bias Eliyahu, that you can't believe in the geula if Eliyahu didn't come first. Ve'ein lahamin l'shum geula kodim sheyavo Eliyahu.
Okay, why did the Rambam pass this way in the Yad? I forget. Why did the Rambam not pass this way in the Yad? What was the reason?
Why didn't he say that Eliyahu Navi has to come before?
First? Yeah.
He said it's a machlokes, and we came out that we don't really know where the Rambam's makor is for that. I mean, he brought a few different possibilities, but kind of like slugged them all up.
Right, so there's no answer in the Rambam.
There's no clear answer that's the obvious answer to where the Rambam got his other shita from. The Rambam says it's a machlokes whether Eliyahu will come before Mashiach or after Mashiach.
But the Gemara did pass like it to the point, that if one says Mashiach comes, then one for Shabbos Yom Tov.
Okay, so the aim lahamin l'shum geula kodim sheyav Eliyahu. So even though the Maharal says that you have to have Eliyahu first, and it would seem maybe that you don't have to have tshuva. That's what he's asking. V'zehu das roiv rishonim. This is what most rishonim hold. Mashmar is a Gemara. Kasher rachti l'maila. Aval vaday desavri she'Eliyahu yachzir kol Yisrael b'tshuva. Even they agree that you have to have tshuva, and this thing that Eliyahu will come means that Eliyahu will come and make them do tshuva. K'moishe darshu chachamei zal b'kama midrashos. Because I'll say in many places, mikra from the pasuk Hinei anochi sholech lachem es Eliyahu Navi v'heishiv leiv avos albanim. The next pasuk is Eliyahu will bring back the hearts of the sons, the fathers on the sons. In other words, he'll make everybody do tshuva. V'zeh pashut. So we can't believe in any redemption if it happens without tshuva. Because it goes against the promise of the pasuk in Parashat Nitzavim that v'shavta l'Hashem Elokecha ukvar dibarti mizeh bo'erach. I explained this at length earlier in the